What's happening, everyone? Kyra and Ben back again, and we are in the holiday season. So we are going to be covering some Christmas movies. Ben, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. It doesn't really feel like Christmas to me here in New England because we have unwhite Christmas.
Well, for me, it's the fact that they rush Christmas now,
Oh, yeah.
and in September they had Christmas stuff out. For me, that's hard because I grew up where you had to wait for Christmas, you had to wait for these things to come out, and we made it more exciting. So for me, like this time of year isn't as exciting as it was when I was a kid.
Absolutely. And I feel like we both work retail in our main life, and I think sometimes at this time of year it feels soul crushing.
Oh, 100%, especially like with dealing with the different customers and like the attitudes and for people that like it's the most wonderful time of the year. Yeah, they don't work retail. So that's something that they should maybe do it once in their life and see how wonderful it truly is.
Exactly, but we are not bitter, unlike the disillusioned elf Peppermint from the movie Candy Cane Lane that Ben and I are covering this week. This is a new film on Amazon Prime. It is starring Eddie Murphy and Tracy Ellis Ross and Jillian Bell. Those were like the three main names for me. Actually, there's a lot of names in it. Like Nick Offerman was in it. Like we had a lot of people in it. So I thought it was really interesting. Obviously, brand new movie. Ben, you were actually the one to suggest it to me because you had seen it before I had when we were talking about planning out our Christmas movies. So kind of give me a brief rundown of your history with the film.
So I was just going through Amazon Prime looking at stuff, and I saw that there was a new holiday movie, and I was I'm interested because I like holiday movies, and it's hard to get a good one nowadays. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, let me give it a shot, and it had Eddie Murphy, and I was like, his movies haven't been great lately, so let me check this out. But I was actually pleased with it. I thought it was much better than what I was expected. I went in there with low expectations, and it was actually a cute story. It was original, and it made a lot of sense, and it was funny.
It was. It's one of it's definitely a family movie, definitely a feel good movie. And it was an interesting take on the 12 Days of Christmas. I did like that. So of course, as you know, we're gonna go over the points of the story while we talk about it, and of course, spoilies ahead. So we have Eddie Murphy. Chris is his name, and he is works for sales. He has three kids. His wife is trying to get a promotion, and they live. Okay, so they don't live on Candy Cane Lane, but they do this thing called Candy Cane Lane where all the houses decorate their house insane for like a prize. And it's typically just bragging rights. So that part to me felt very like Christmas with the Cranks where everyone like has to like decorate their house like collectively. But I don't know. So I thought it was really interesting and the amount of like time and money that people put into it. I mean, his across the street neighbor, Ken Marino, his blow up house, like he just like has all these like blow ups. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, and like for me, the decorations and everything reminded me when I was younger. There was this house in Peabody, Mass, and every year they do the decorations, and it was like a place that everybody went to go see. Like this was the one house in Peabody and in the area that was like the most important Christmas house you had to see because of all the decorations they had every year. I don't believe they do it anymore, but that was what it reminded me of. It reminded me of like the competition, you want your house to be the most extravagant Christmas thing, and it was just fun.
Exactly. And you can tell like all the residents of this street, not Candy Cane Lane, have a really fun time doing it. They all look forward to it. Eddie Murphy likes to do a lot of like woodworking, so he likes to really incorporate that into his house. People kind of make fun of him for it. And he's good, but he never really wins. Ken Marino always wins. So now we follow him throughout his day, and we hear that his wife, her boss, supports her promotion, so she's getting really excited, amping up for the big meeting. And then, of course, Eddie Murphy has a meeting, and his does not go so well. He gets laid off. The company got bought out. He's aged out of sales. He gets laid off. So now he's really stressed out. So when they go to celebrate the opening of Candy Cane Lane, it is revealed that this year they also get $100,000. So now everyone is going crazy. And I thought what did you think of the two announcers?
I thought they played off each other well. It was like one was trying to be very professional and like, to die hard to the T about how serious the situation was and like how to take the role. And the other one was just like this feel good, want to have fun, just wants to laugh, like, just wanted to make it extravagant kind of. And like they're totally opposite. And I thought that was the way they played off each other was kind of funny.
I totally agree. And I don't know the actor of the male co-host, but he played Jonah in Veep, and to me he seemed like he played like the exact same character, this very like deadpan, like try hard, and I thought it was really funny. I thought they were hilarious. I agree. They played off each other really well, and I liked how much they were kind of like in the story because I felt like they were kind of going to just be like throwaways, but they were kind of like a little bit like narrators in points. So I did really like that. So now Eddie Murphy gets laid off. They're going to their family's, their friend's house for the reveal of Candy Cane Lane. It's $100,000. Everyone's freaking out. And Eddie Murphy's like, this is going to save my family. This is what I need. This is going to be the best Christmas ever. I'm going to save my family. And so obviously his wife's like, no, you should be looking for a job. He's like, no, I need to be decorating the house. Like, we need to win this $100,000. And like, okay, so I know there's like a reveal at the end about the $100,000, but did you think it was a little suspicious that it would just be like, oh yeah, 100,000? Like, where did this small network get that money? Like, no one questioned it.
Yeah, I thought it was funny when they did do the big reveal. I was like, oh, that makes sense now. I was like, no, I totally get it. And but it was just funny to think that like how people react towards the number, not the reality. It was the number that everybody was focused on, and not the reality of what it actually was.
Exactly. And I think too that like that we can talk about that later because it kind of comes into play with like Pepper and Eddie Murphy. So now Eddie Murphy's got to decorate the house. And he takes his youngest daughter because she's like, I'm going to help you. Like obviously like and then they go to Home Depot, everything's blown out, it's ready for Valentine's Day. Something you had mentioned honestly before this is how holidays circle so fast through retail. And it's like, okay, like before Thanksgiving, we were like halfway sold out of all our Christmas candy. And it's like, what? Like, that's crazy. So I thought that was really interesting that they showed that in the story. Okay, so then they drive past this place called Kringle's, and it feels like it popped up magically, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because like they lived in that town their whole lives, and they've never seen this place. And then mysteriously, like the day they need Christmas ornaments, there is this place called Kringle's. So I mean, yeah, it was like definitely magical.
Absolutely magical. But then I want to talk about this because the magic of the movie seemed off to me. Because so obviously Kringles appears to Eddie Murphy and his daughter in their time of need. But then they keep returning to the store and we see other people in the store. So now is it just like a normal store while he's in this contract?
I don't know. That's a good point, but it doesn't really say like if she tries to like manipulate other people or like maybe like she can't really do anything once she gets one contract under wraps. She can't really do another contract until that one plays out.
Right, but then why would she keep her store open to the public if her whole thing is to get these like these people? I don't know. I don't know. The magic of it was a little off to me. It didn't make sense, and I thought that was funny. But that also ties into part of the ending, so that's why I bring it up. I got a lot to say. So now they're at Kringle's, and we meet Pepper or Peppermint, Jillian Bell, and her evil elf kind of like crazy vibe was at first. So I watched the movie twice. And the first time I watched it, it was off putting to me because I was like, she can't pick what she's doing. Like, I don't know. But then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, she like is just like a person who's gone crazy. So this is like how they would act. How did you interpret it?
So Peppermint used to work for Santa. She's kicked out of Santa's workshop because of like how she's like everybody's bad, and she tries to like be very domineering towards like everybody and make them like no matter what they do, they're always bad. I think the loss of her connection to Santa made her more crazy, and that's why she becomes the way she does because she's taken away from Santa's whole like righteousness. If that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. And I get that. I just thought it was like played out weird. Because what it really reminded me of was did you ever see the movie Fred Claus with Vince Vaughn?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so small tangent like we do. Fred Claus is one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's very cute. It's very funny. Vince Vaughn, Rachel Weisz, Paul Giamatti, Kathy Bates. Huge cast. Elizabeth Banks, like huge cast watched it. Very cute. But they deal with this same issue in Fred Claus in a different way, and obviously this isn't the overarching issue of Candy Cane Lane. But what Pepper deals with is like who's a good kid and who's a bad kid, right? So in Fred Claus, they talk about how Vince Vaughn has to go through the files of these kids and mark them as naughty or nice, and he goes and he marks all of them as nice. And Santa's like, we can't make all these toys. Like, there has to be some naughty kids. And he's like, no, I think every kid deserves a present on Christmas. And I think that is so interesting to see that versus like Santa's like, oh, we have to have someone naughty, like not understanding children. Versus in this one, you have like a underling of Santa who's trying to call kids naughty, and Santa being like, well, you got to be a little bit more lenient. And I think it's interesting how those Santas were depicted, like, because they're both obviously businessmen and mythical creatures, but it's like one's more concerned about the bottom line, and one is like, why are you undermining me? I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Oh yes, 100%. And if you think about it, like they're kids. I mean, how bad can a kid truly be? Well, yeah, kids can be really bad, but most of the kids, like they're just kids exploring and learning themselves, and pushing the boundaries of what they can get away with and stuff. It's not really bad. It's just like they're learning. It's like how can you discipline that? I mean, it's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to learn and develop and grow. And maybe you don't give them a great, huge, gigantic present if they're bad, like per se, like ish. But I think everybody deserves some kind of present on Christmas.
Absolutely. And I think too, like I love in the Candy Cane Lane Peppermint when she's like, what does Christmas mean to you? And then like she keeps asking it, and then she goes, I'm so sick of humans explaining Christmas to me. I thought it was so funny because like a lot of the movies, a lot of Christmas movies deal with what is Christmas and what is the meaning of Christmas and what does Christmas mean to you? And we're going to cover The Grinch later, and this is also a huge theme in that as well. So I think it's very interesting because Eddie Murphy is very focused on like the family aspect of Christmas and like creating a great Christmas for his family, and like he's all about it. But at the same point, as his kids point out, kind of during that climactic fight that always happens in a movie, they kind of point out that it's like, yes, he might have good intentions for it, but he really does do it for himself. He doesn't do it for his family because he can't, or his family doesn't understand why. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because there comes a point in your life when your kids grow up and they grow out, and you want to keep that treasure of like those memories forever. And you maybe as an adult, as a parent, you tend to do the stuff that like they grew out of, but you don't grow out of it because that's what you remember them as, because that's your children and that's what you look at them like, and you're like, wait a minute, this is my children. I've always done this. This is what made them happy, and it might not make them happy anymore, but in your mind, you're like, this is what my children want, and like you lose focus because the parent in you loses focus in the adult in them. Did that make any sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 100% that makes sense. I totally get that. And I think too, like, I don't know, the holidays are different for everyone and mean something to everyone. And kids grow, and like you said, like you grow up with the traditions with your kids, and then the kids grow up and then they want to have their own traditions. And I don't know. It's really interesting because like I'm in that point where it's like, what do the holidays mean to me? And I think this year feels really different and weird. Doesn't it? It doesn't even feel like Christmas. I mean, we kind of said that earlier, but I don't know. It feels like I don't know. I don't know. Okay, back to the movie. I could go on this weird tangent forever. So there is this beautiful 12 Days of Christmas tree in Kringle's Peppermint's Workshop, or pop-up store as she refers to it as, and it's a singing, moving, dancing, giant display of the 12 Days of Christmas. It's actually really cool. It's wood. It fits his theme. He's like, okay, we'll take it. And then this is the part again where I'm like, wouldn't your red flags go off? So she's like, okay, where's your credit card? Tap it. And then he has to sign this like massive receipt. He doesn't even know the price. And I was just like, okay, obviously like the lights are flickering, the toys are talking, and you like don't think that this is weird. Like it was very much like making a deal with the devil.
Oh, 100%. But, in all honesty, when we use our credit cards, do we even look at the fine print on what we buy? Or like, we don't, because we're just like, okay, we take it as face value that it's honest, and then that's, I guess, maybe human naivety, like thinking that like people wouldn't, like mess us over. And he was so focused on trying to make this most amazing Christmas house because he wants that $100,000 for his kids that he didn't care like what the consequences was. He didn't care about anything. He just I'm going to get this stuff. I want to make this happen, and I'll deal with repercussions later.
Exactly. So now they set up the house, and it is the big reveal of the on the night. And so as they have a little snafu when it's their turn to light up the house because I don't know, it's a magic tree. It takes all the power, I assume. But they finally light it up. Their house is beautiful. Everyone's jealous. And Eddie Murphy and his family are like really happy. His kids are happy. So he has three kids, and we kind of didn't talk about them. We have the youngest daughter who's like really involved in the house and like always like believes her dad. They're kind of like the closest, I would say, out of the siblings. And then you have the eldest daughter who wants to run track in college, and Eddie Murphy and his wife want her to go to the school that they went to. She wants to go far away, kind of spread her wings. And then we have a son who's bad at math but good at music. And that's like literally his whole thing. And I was like, okay, like we could have given you a slightly better storyline. But so those are his kids and they're proud of him and everyone's proud and he's really happy. And then the next day he gets this crank phone call being like, where are all your ornaments? So he goes outside and he sees that all the not cardboard, but all the wood ornaments on this tree that were like the 12 days of Christmas are now vanished. And now he's like, someone is vandalizing me. He's freaking out. And then we find out that they came to life because of Pepper and they have golden rings. And he has to collect all the golden rings because, plot twist, if he doesn't collect all the golden rings, he gets turned into a talking figurine, porcelain figurine. And this is where we meet like Nick Offerman, Chris Redd. Did you know the orchestra, the little like carolers were the Pentatonics?
I did not, and that's actually very interesting because I thought they were really funny.
They were funny. So we meet all these little porcelain Christmas figurines dressed in like Christmas clothing, and we find out that if you can't complete this like deal that you signed off to with Pepper, that you will then turn into one of these porcelain figurines. Because when he sets up the tree, he has to make a wish on the partridge, right? Yeah, he has to make a wish on the partridge, and then his wish is that it's the best Christmas ever. He wants to win. Which actually is funny at the end when his kids are like, you made a wish and you didn't wish for world peace or or like the end of hunger or like anything like that. I thought that was really funny.
And it fits the tone of the newer generation. Like the newer generation would be more concerned with that instead of, winning the ultimate prize of $100,000 and, using it for nothing. So, I mean, I get it. But yeah, I see his point of view too as like a father. You want to do what's best for your kids, and yeah, the world's in trouble and the world's this and that. But as a parent, you're so focused on your children that the rest of the world doesn't matter. It's just you want to make their lives better.
Of course, and then the kids view it as like from the point of view as like, okay, well, if I'm going to grow up in this world, I want to grow up in like a good world, and we see that like through all the generations. Like it's very interesting though, and I thought that part was really funny because he was like, oh, I wasn't thinking like that. Like, oops, like should I have been? So he has to collect the rings, or he's going to turn into this porcelain figurine. Nick Offerman is our main figurine, which I thought was funny, and I was like, why couldn't they just find a British guy? But I do like Nick Offerman. He has this like insane old-timey British accent in it. And then they have this group of carolers who are very good, and it's the Pentatonics, and they're funny because anytime they hear words of a Christmas song, like anything like joy, heart, and I don't know, anything, like they start singing immediately, and I think that they were so cute and so funny.
Yeah, I thought it was funny when Pepper goes to, like, Eddie Murphy ends up taking them, bringing them to his house, like, try and save them, basically. And Pepper goes, and she knows they're in there, but she can't make them come out. So she starts saying stuff to make them sing.
And then the other figurines are, like, covering their mouths. They're like, you will not sing. You will not blow this for us. And then Pepper leaves a clue that, like, the elf on the shelf is going to have the last ring. And she's an elf. So now Eddie Murphy enlists the help of his family. They're collecting the rings because he thinks that he only needs 5 because in the song there's 5 golden rings. So he goes, okay, we need 5 rings. So then okay, and also the math of this movie didn't make sense, and we're going to talk about that after. So he needs 5 golden rings. So they're collecting the 5 rings, and Pepper has the last ring. So he's like, all right, I got the last ring. We've caught Pepper at the Christmas Eve finale of Candy Cane Lane when they crown the prize. It is revealed to us that it's not $100,000, but it's $100,000 in taco coupons.
Yes, taco coupons, and that was great because the lady goes, "Oops, my bad." The television announcer, she's like, "I probably should have slipped that." And the guy's like, "Yeah, you think?"
But then at the same point, what small radio station would have TV station would have $100,000? Like it was so funny and it made sense, and I liked them. I liked them a lot. So now Pepper's like, oh, no, you actually don't need 5 rings. You need 40 rings because the song repeats itself. But then I was like, okay, if the song repeats itself, I don't know, maybe I'm bad at math, but I felt like it was more than 40.
Oh, yeah, definitely, because it's 12 repeats. And then you figure if it repeats itself 12 times, then that would be more than 40. It'd be like almost 60, I think. Like close to 60. Like five times 12 is 60. Oh, I am good.
But that's just rings. Like, wouldn't it be like 2,000? I don't know. I don't know, you guys. I'm bad at math, but the math of this movie was that it was 40 rings. So now there's like this huge battle of like Pepper versus the town because they're trying to, or this family that's trying to get the rings. They got like geese and hens. Santa comes. And I thought, so what I thought was funny was, so Santa's Black Santa, and the TV announcer goes, "Oh my God, Black Santa." And the male announcer, who's white, goes, "I just see Santa." And then she goes, "What color is that nutcracker?" And he goes, "White." And and like kind of to like prove his point of like, okay, like I don't know. I thought that part was really funny. So Santa comes, and we find out that like Ben had said, Pepper was an elf who was demoted and then turned evil. So now she said, and then she signs they are looking at the contract that Eddie Murphy signed, and Santa's like, "Oh, I actually can't help you. You signed a binding contract." And I thought that was the funniest thing.
Yeah, he's like, wait a minute, aren't you magic? Can't you do anything? He's like, you signed it. You did. Why didn't you read the fine print? So I thought that was great. I was like, oh, because like most Christmas movies would have been like, oh, Santa will fix it with his magic, but he's like, oh no, that shit's binding. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
And then they're like, "Okay, Santa, help me a little bit." And like Santa like creates like a wooden angel to like help shoot down some of the geese. So is now, and it's so funny that it's 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve and not midnight like everything else. It felt so arbitrary. It's like, okay, collect all these rings by 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve. It's like, what? Like that is not a marker of time. Again, very some of the things in this movie, like the choices were very odd to me. So it strikes 8 o'clock and they only have 38 rings. And then Eddie Murphy gets turned into the little guy because, as we know, the contract is binding. So now the family's upset. Santa's there just literally watching, which I honestly also kind of, okay, well, let's finish the story and then let's talk about it. So Santa's just kind of watching as like Pepper is like maniacally laughing that she got another soul. And then the family's like pleading like, "Santa, can't you do something? Can't you do something?" And then he's like, "How many rings do you have?" And Tracy Ellis Ross, Eddie Murphy's wife, is like, 38. And he goes, "Don't you have more?" So she looks down at her hand. Of course, she's wearing a gold ring. She goes, 39. And then toy Eddie Murphy's like, "I have another one, 40." And then he grows back because even though they're not the golden rings that Pepper wanted them to get, since they had golden rings in their possession, kind of like a loophole, he was able to survive.
Yeah, and I thought like the only reason Santa was there was because the little porcelain guy and the youngest daughter sent a letter to him with her Christmas wish. So I thought that was pretty cool. We'll get to that, but that's the only reason Santa was even there. Had she not done that, then they would have been done.
Because Santa doesn't care. He just like, okay, so like, not that Santa doesn't care, because Santa does obviously care, but I felt it was very like interesting how, to me, okay, so Santa kind of was like, okay, and then it wasn't even like he used his magic to help them, because he just kind of like pointed out a loophole. So like, even though he was like, contract's binding, but this is kind of like a loophole, and like didn't even use his Christmas magic. But yes, so the youngest daughter, who I would call Eddie Murphy's favorite, writes a letter to Santa with her Christmas wish. Ben, do you want to say what the wish was?
Yeah, she wanted the porcelain figurines to come back to being normal people.
And so then, of course, Santa can't use his magic to help this family, but uses the magic for a child's wish. And that wish, so now all the porcelain people turn into real people, and then they all get to go back to the North Pole with Santa. And I don't know. And it kind of was funny to me, like, how hands-off Santa was. Because, like, you would think, like, you see Santa and other things, and he's very hands-on. And he was kind of just like, whatever. It's revealed that the daughter is going to go to UNC, because even though she blows it with the Notre Dame scout, she saves the UNC scout, and I was like, UNC is better than Notre Dame anyways.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I mean, especially like the part when she's doing the tryout for the track, and then the jumping men come and they like mess her all up, and like she has to go and get this ring. And the guy from Notre Dame's kind of like a jerk. I was like, oh, don't betray Notre Dame like that, man. I was like, you're making Notre Dame to be like this total assholes. I'm like, that's messed up, man. I mean, but I thought it was fun.
It was funny. It was really funny. And then at the end I thought it was cute. So then Pepper, her punishment is that she actually becomes one of the porcelain dolls in and then Santa's like, "Well, if you do good, you can work your way up to reindeer poop scooper." I don't know, like something and just like, "I hate the reindeer." And then Eddie Murphy's character, instead of going back to his sales job since he loves Christmas so much, he actually takes over Kringles. So it's not a magical pop-up. It is now actually a permanent store, and he recalls it Kris Kringles. Is this like a nod to that maybe he's the next Santa?
It could be. That's actually something to think about. And then when they're at Christmas Day, he gives the rival neighbor a shirt to celebrate Christmas, and like, it kind of catches the guy off guard. And then the guy Pip, he shows up at the door, and now I thought, maybe I'm wrong. I thought Pip was out of time. I don't think he belonged in that time. I think Pepper did it a long time ago, and he had nowhere to go.
I totally agree. And I think it's like in his clothes. And when he brings a mallard, I also was like, where did you find a mallard? You should have just gone back to the North Pole with everyone else. But no, Pip was absolutely out of time because Santa and elves are immortal. So why wouldn't we have one from every time period? But I thought it was funny, like he didn't want to go. I think he hated Christmas and he had no family. And I wish we found out what Pip's wish was because he's the only one whose wish we don't find out. Like the other people are talking about like their wishes and how they got there.
Yeah, it was kind of odd to me too. I thought maybe he didn't have a wish. Maybe like Pip was just like an animated figure that she brought to life, and he really had nowhere to go. He had nothing but knowing how to be a porcelain figure, and because he never mentions like family, he never mentions anything. He says, "I've been like this a very, very, very long time."
Of course, and I took that as Pip's wish, like from guessing and speculation, was this is from like obviously like Victorian era England, and I think it was he wished for a family because he's kind of like, oh, I don't have anywhere to go, I don't have a family, I've been like this a long time, I'm all alone, da da da. So I imagine his wish was for a family, which I was like, okay, Pepper, you're a little evil for not giving this dude a family. Like he seems so alone. But then I thought it was nice that he like went back to Eddie Murphy and they were all friends. And then yeah, Eddie Murphy opens up Kris Kringles, which okay, so movie good, fun. The magic and some of the math of it did not make sense to me.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like I said, if you go into this with an open mind, saying, "All right, it's just a Christmas movie," and is it good? Yes. Is it original? Yes. Was it ever done before? Like, could you say, "Oh, this reminds me of this"? Not really, because it was very original, and I that's what I liked about it. It was something that was new. It was cute, and it's family friendly. I thought that was really good. It was family friendly, and at the end of the day, if you look at it and go, "All right, I watch this with my family every year for Christmas just because it has a cute meaning." Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's like a silly, fun like throw it on while like you're wrapping gifts or like decorating the tree or doing anything like that. Like it's cute and it's Eddie Murphy, so there's gonna be that like level of like hijinks and like silliness and I don't know. Eddie Murphy, I feel like he started off very funny. Kind of got like in the like early 2000s pigeonholed as like this like family man kind of comedy actor, and I think he's been doing that, and this is like I think a continuation of that. But I don't know. Like I think he could do a lot more because I think he's a good serious actor. I like Eddie Murphy. I don't know. I don't know, but it's a cute movie. Watch it. Tracy Ellis Ross is in it. She's great, and it's fun. It's like Ben said, it's original, so it's cute, it's fun, and it's a good holiday time. So of course, being the holiday season, we are going to be covering a lot of holiday films. If you guys have any suggestions that you want to see or listen or have us cover, let us know. We are just gonna burn through some of our like classics and favorites. I think that's our plan.
But we're wanting to know what you think because that's what we're here for. We're here for you, and we appreciate all your suggestions. And I appreciate that you guys listen to us and make our ratings do good on overseas. Thank you very much, and have a happy holiday no matter where you are, no matter what you celebrate. I hope it's the best holiday you have.
absolutely, thank you, thank you, thank you, and catch us next time on Woz Happening.